Okay, we will call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia City Council for Monday, January 3rd, 2022. I would like at this time to ask everyone to please rise for a brief invocation to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, as we commence the year 2022, we find ourselves in very challenging circumstances as a city, state, and nation as it surrounds the corona epidemic that is impacting our world. We are ever thankful for the many advances in modern medicine which have allowed many people to survive, but we are very sorrowful about many from our country and some from our community who have not survived. And it's been a sad moment the last few weeks as we've had several funerals in Batavia which were the result of corona deaths. Tonight, I just ask that everyone please be very careful and cognizant of what's going on, and specifically that we seek from ourselves and from our community and from the world around us a high degree of cooperation and understanding, and that we ask for people to continue to wear face masks and to observe the proper procedures when communicating with others as we are trying to bring down the spread of this dreaded disease. We are ever mindful that over the past holiday season, it appears that a number of people who had not gotten shots were impacted because they met with family and friends who had been exposed and were carrying the coronavirus. So we are ever mindful of the large number of emergency calls that our fire department has responded to because of the corona disease. And we just ask that a special blessing be showered upon all those who have been impacted by it, and also a special blessing be showered upon the men and women of our Batavia Police and Fire Departments who have been responding to all these calls, which are so threatening to them themselves personally by being intertwined with those who have had the disease. So we just ask for a special blessing over this whole troubled situation, and we ask that Batavia people and those in our community work with us to try to bring all controls wherever possible around this. Tonight, as always, we want to ask for a special blessing from those from our community and from our country who are serving on foreign soil in defense of the liberties of the United States of America. And we just ask that a special blessing be showered on each one of these men and women as they go about their vital mission. Tonight, we ask for understanding and direction and vision on the parts of the City Council as we act on the items of business before us, knowing that each and every one of them here is here to do what in their own hearts and minds is in the best interest of our community. We ask for all these blessings, and we ask for, again, a special blessing on those in our community who are been inflicted or have been threatened or are suffering with the coronavirus, and just that we can bring this whole situation down very quickly, and with understanding and guidance, we will overcome the problems that we've faced the last few weeks. We ask for all these blessings. Amen. Alderman Conley, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving to item 3, the roll call, please.
Miller.
Here.
Rosado.
Here.
Beck.
Here.
Connolly.
Here.
Chanzit. Wolf.
Here.
Solfa.
Here.
Barron. Here. Lehman.
Here.
Ayazi.
Here.
Malay.
Here.
Ewer.
Here.
Cerrone.
Here.
Vogelsinger. Second call for Chanzit. I know Alderman Chanzit was on the call earlier. Okay.
So
12 present, 2 absent, Your Honor.
very good, thank you. We do have the quorum to conduct business. And if Alderman Chanzit or Vogelsinger can hear us and they can tune themselves in when you get on, please give me a yell so I know you've joined the meeting. Okay, reminder to please use the microphones while we are speaking because this is being recorded and broadcast by BATV. Moving to item 5, items to be removed, added, or changed on tonight's agenda. Do we have anything?
No.
Anybody in the council? All right. Moving right along, we are going to go to the consent agenda, and this is a bit of an issue because Alderman Chanzit's apparently not able to tune us in. So who's?
It's me.
Alderman Beck?
Your Honor, the consent agenda reads as follows. For approval, the December 24th, 2021 payroll in the amount of $917,148.68. The accounts payable check register in the amount of $635.88.49. Your Honor, I move we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Beck, second by Alderman Sofa for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Chanzit, absent. Wolf,
Aye.
Solfa,
Aye.
Barron. Aye. Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
12 ayes, no nos, 2 absent, Your Honor.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda is by a vote of 12 yes, 2 absent. So moving then to item number 7, which is matters from the public for items not on the agenda. Do we have anybody?
No, we do not.
Okay. Nobody in the audience?
No.
Moving then to 8, which is the Batavia Chamber of Commerce report, and Margaret Perot, our Executive Director and President, is here. So Margaret, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. First of all, I want to thank everyone who shopped local this holiday season. Every unique gift you purchased or local service you used or restaurants you visited helped to provide jobs and a vital piece of our local economy that keeps our town vibrant and bright. I'm thrilled to report that since November, the Chamber has sold $9,160 in Chamber bucks, and the Chamber donated an additional $5,000 in holiday bucks for a total of $14,160 just since November that helps go right into local businesses' pockets. In fact, the total of Chamber bucks sold in 2021 was $26,120. We are thrilled to provide these gift certificates as an option throughout the year, so continue to support our local businesses in our town. I want to remind everyone that the Chamber is again this year offering Inspire scholarships to support our Batavia high school seniors. We are offering a total of $3,000, $750 each for each scholarship for entrepreneurship, women in business, career and technical achievers, and contributors to a Batavia Chamber business. Please encourage your high school senior to go online for the application. It is open now through the end of March. The Chamber is always happy to provide any partnership and support we can to help BPS and to encourage our future business owners. The Chamber is offering a new service, as I mentioned last month, to support women in business. It's our new women's table forum, and is a facilitated mastermind group of peers who understand what it is like to run a business. Through collaboration, members advise, mentor, hold accountable, and support each other. This small group will meet once a month for 6 months, beginning Thursday, January 13th, and you can sign up for this on our Chamber website. The last 2 years have been tough, but our view is that out of crisis comes opportunity. The Chamber is ready to help any business take advantage of that opportunity and have a great 2022. we are here to help. The Chamber is continuing to offer many educational networking opportunities to help our businesses thrive. We have a variety of upcoming in-person and virtual events, and I encourage each of you to join us. On our not-for-profit forum that's available to not-for-profit leaders in the area is Wednesday, January 5th at 8 a.m. It's a virtual event. The Batavia Chamber Breakfast Club will be Wednesday, the 12th, Wednesday the 12th at 8 a.m. That's virtual. We have a ribbon cutting for Voyager Net on Wednesday, January 12th at 4 p.m. in person. Networking will be virtual as well on Wednesday, January 19th. It's our evening after-hours meetup, so you get to meet new people and support your business that way. We have a ribbon cutting for the 150th anniversary for Bethany Lutheran Church on Saturday, January 16th at 10 a.m. And as we know, we have all seen that the numbers are rising on a daily basis with new COVID cases. So with everybody's safety in mind, today our board of directors of the Chamber decided to postpone our Inspire celebration that was scheduled for January 27th. We're going to postpone it to early spring, and we feel it's the right thing to do to keep our population, our people safe. But at that time, it'll be great to celebrate our Citizen of the Year, Dan Hofler, and our Batavia Community Band as the Spirit of Batavia winner. So please see our website, and I will continue to update you with more details when we have the new date. Check our Chamber's website, bataviachamber.org, to register for our events, sign up for our services, and you can also text the Chamber at 478-CHAMBER. Before I introduce my esteemed guest, does anybody have any questions for me this evening? All right, great, thanks. Now I would like to introduce Steve Warrenfeltz, the owner of Kiss the Sky, the independent music store located in downtown Batavia that carries an amazing assortment of vinyl records and CDs, plus other things. His store was able to weather the pandemic and came out stronger than ever. Steve also is a big promoter of the local live music scene and has a lot he wants to share with you. So please welcome Steve. Right up. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, Mayor, City Council folks. Just listening to you talk made me think about something that happened last year when we were reopening from the shutdown that non-essential business went through during 2020. If you remember, during late March, non-essential businesses were forced to shut down. And it wasn't until 68 days later that we were allowed to reopen. During those 68 days, my little business lost 25% of its annual revenue. And we reopened at the end of May and started to pick up business a little bit here and a little bit there. And during the month of July, I started to notice something that was really quite unusual for our store, and that is that a lot of young people started coming in. And when I say young, I mean like 12, 13, 14-year-old kids coming into the store and buying records. Records. Not downloading, not streaming, but buying records. I'd like to kind of ask everybody here a little quick question. How many of you have turntables in your homes? Have you had those turntables in there for a long time, or is it just kind of a recent thing?
Both.
Long time?
Long time.
I think you've had a positive impact on the young people in this community, because from July of 2020 until today, our store has sold more turntables than we sold in the previous 5 years. Unbelievable. In 2019, I was thinking about retiring. I'm turning 70 next year. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I thought that when my lease expired in July of 2020, it would have been a nice run. It'd be a good time to call it a day. I have grandchildren, and I I would love to just spend the rest of my life sitting on the front porch and watching the kids romper through the front yard and playing music for them and maybe forming a band with my kids. But because of the pandemic, that plan to shut down and call it a day in 2020 was not possible. There was no way I could have a going out of business sale when non-essential businesses were shut down. So I talked to BEI and I negotiated a 2-year extension. And why a 2-year extension, I don't know, but I thought it was the right thing to do and that it would probably take a couple years for the dust to settle and things to work out. And I'll tell you, I'm glad I did. In 2020, not only did we make up that money that we had lost for the 68 days that we were shut down, we actually ended up the year 10% above 2019. So during a pandemic in which we only were open 10 out of 12 months, we exceeded the previous year's sales. This year, or this past year, in 2021, we are up 65% over 2020. Those are unreal numbers for this industry. We are going to end up having our best year in the last 13 years. Unbelievable. So I'm glad I renegotiated the extension of the lease and stuck it out for another 2 years. And when you know, sometime during that 2 or 3 year period, our neighbors, Warner Brothers, decided to close up shop and exit and leave that space vacant. And when I renegotiated the 2-year extension with BEI, I talked to Austin Dempsey about the possibility of bringing up an old idea that he and I and another person had kind of ventured down a path many years ago, 10, 12 years ago, and that was turning that space into a live music venue. And so we have started our discussions, and we have met with folks here at the city and talked about the possibility, and we're now at the point where we're doing drawings for a live music venue, and keep our fingers crossed that everything works out, and maybe by the end of the year we'll have rock and roll and folk and jazz and blues and live music happening right next door to Kiss the Sky. So I kind of get a little choked up when I think about this one particular situation in which 3 girls back in July of 2020 came into the store, and one of them had a Led Zeppelin album in their arms, and the girl couldn't have been more than 17 years old. And when the girls came up to the counter and were checking out, I asked her, "What's going on with you kids and turntables and records?" And the girl said to me, she said, "Well, it's our parents. You know, we've been staying home, we're listening to music, and they're showing us the value of physical product." And she goes, "And let me tell you something else. Our parents have been encouraging us to support local businesses and not buy the product online." Coming from a 17-year-old girl, that it was unbelievable. And so my point in telling you that is I have seen over the last 2 years an unbelievable support from the community. Unbelievable. And I am proud that and happy and thrilled that our business is back in Batavia where it always should have been. We should have never have left, darn it, you know. Sorry about that. And Mayor Burns, if you're listening in, it was a good time there. We had fun, but nothing like being home. So thank you for the opportunity. If there's any questions that you might have, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Alderman Lehman?
So you plan on keeping Kiss the Sky open as you open the music venue also?
Yeah, that's kind of the plan. I'm going to have to talk to Austin about that, but yeah, I can't believe I'm doing this, really. We've been doing this for 25 years. It's been a nice run, but you know what? I can't think of a better retirement gig. I don't want to go work at Ace Hardware or, sorry, Ace Hardware, but I have a great gig. So yeah, we'd like to keep the store open.
Alderman Beck?
A comment and a question. So as a former teenage kid that came into Kiss the Sky to learn about new music, although I was buying CDs and not records, thank you for your presence in our town all these years. And is there any advice or suggestions you have for us sitting here in terms of your perspective as a small business owner, what we could be doing to better support you, what we can be doing to support your existing business, your future business, or any advice you have for us?
You sure you want to open up that can of
Yeah.
worms? Yeah. I think that the city of Batavia does an excellent job of helping small and large businesses. This is not necessarily your responsibility, but it is a problem that I think a lot of us small independent businesses share, and that is getting the word out in today's world is really, really difficult. Even though there's social media and you have Twitter and TikTok, is that what it's called? And Instagram and Facebook and email and all that, it is really tough. I can't tell you how many people come in my store, and here we are. We've been in business for 25 years, and I think we've made a little bit of noise in the community. And but how many people come in our store and go, I never knew you were here. Happens all the time. I've been trying to promote lately my favorite place to eat, which is Daddy-O's Diner, and I can't tell you how many people that come into my store, and I talk to them. They ask, is there a good place to eat in town? And I'll tell them about Daddy-O's, and then Melissa's Place and other places, and they don't know about the locations and stuff. So I don't know what the answer is, but promote, market, push, get the word out as much as possible.
Get one of those 17-year-olds to do media,
No kidding.
social media.
No kidding, yeah. Yeah, and you know, that's a problem with a 70-year-old man trying to market in social media. Number one, I don't have the time for it.
Right.
You know, I'm working 75 hours a week as it is, just, you know, doing orders and talking to customers, and it's tough today. So.
I really appreciate what you're doing over there, and I appreciate the fact that you've revived the record, and you're playing music that has words to it, and people can understand it, and it's got melodies and beats, and I'm really very pleased that the youth of Batavia are finding that music again and understanding it. You've got where your location has a very unique connection with a bigger music spectrum than what I think most people appreciate. I graduated from Batavia High School 55 years ago. In the first 3 years I was there, we were at the later the junior high, kitty corner from you, and right across the street from your business there was a parking lot, and it used to be that in a good year there were 10 kids that had a car could drive to Batavia High School, and that was their parking lot down there at the bottom of the hill. And so Elwood Willie, who was the band director at Batavia High School for a number of years, I ended up, I was not musical, but he liked me, and I was in his choir as a political operative. I couldn't sing, but he had me do all the political work for him, as he called it. And he told me the story one time that in 1955 and 56, they had a girl in Batavia High School who had a beautiful voice. And he tried and tried and tried to get her to come into the choir, and that wasn't her type of music. So on her study halls days, he sometimes would take her out in the back, and they'd go down to the parking lot, which was kitty corner from your place, and she'd do voice for him, and he would help her analyze her voice and kind of get her to change a few things and whatever have you, and they became very good friends, but he never could get her in the choir. At the end of her sophomore year, she quit Batavia High School because she wanted to go on a musical career. Her name at the time was Sherry Meyer, and she lived at 713 East Wilson Street and then later at 39 South Mallory. And after she left Batavia High School, she changed her name to Jackie DeShannon, and in 1964, she was the opening act for all 19 appearances of the Beatles. When they first time they came to America, she was the opening act for that particular event. And a few years ago, I got a call from 20th Century Fox, who was looking about making a movie about the Beatles' first tour of America. And they wanted to know more about her because supposedly one of the subplots in the movie that was being written was that she had a little romantic fling going with John Lennon during the tour, and the other three boys in the band got their noses out of joint, and that was going to be one of the plots in this movie because most of it was going to be the songs. But I did some research for them and found a couple of Batavians who had dated her. They were curious to know what kind of romance she had in high school. And so later they told me that they had to stop looking into the movie because when the Beatles broke up as a group, they ended up having to sell the rights to all their music to other people. And now when here's the movie industry standing there wanting to buy the rights back to play, I Want to Hold Your Hand and all these Please, Please, Please Me and all these famous Beatles songs, the people that owned it suddenly thought those songs were worth multi-millions of dollars. And so the whole thing became kind of inexpensive, overly expensive, and they've got I'm sure they got the movie written, but they've never produced it. But, the mere fact that you used to have Jackie DeShannon literally standing in the parking lot across the street from you as a young girl with the music director from Batavia High School trying to help her with her voice, I think that's an interesting anecdote for what your business does, and I'm sure you probably have a record or two of hers over in your store there that she sang, but it all kind of started right across the street from where you are. So I just think that's kind of interesting that you have a famous singer. In 1983, she won the Grammy Award for Put a Little Love in Your Heart and What the World Needs Now is Love. So you got kind of a little historic thing going there at that corner with music. So we're in the process of developing a sign program for downtown Batavia in which we're going to put signs up where various historical things occurred. In this room, they made the fuel line that was used in the rocket that landed on the moon in '69 in this room.
Wow.
And so I think we'll probably put a sign over there on the bottom of the library hill there telling the story about Jackie DeShannon having voice lessons from Elwood Willie, and it's right across the street from where you are. So I just think that there's, some very interesting things that have happened, and, it's kind of like 50 plus years later, you come along and produce this really neat little music facility over there, and now I'm very pleased to hear that you're expanding it, and I have some of them that graduated from high school with me in 1960s are in here telling me, wanting to know when we think you're going to get your place open, because they're trying to get the band together to come back and do a revival presentation. So there's a lot of...
That wouldn't be Jim Friedland now, would it?
It certainly would be, yes.
Well, I have an idea. I think, obviously, you know that George at the library is a big Jackie DeShannon fan, right?
Right.
And George and I have talked about that history a little bit, and I suggested to him that since Jackie is still alive, at least she was the last time George and I talked about it, and she's living in California,
Right.
I think, that maybe the three of us go out there and try to convince her to come for the grand opening of
She's
the new
already been
music.
approached about coming back to Batavia and going out to the high school and doing a concert at the...
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
She's over, I guess she's over 80 years old now, and she's
Yeah.
kind of saying, I don't know if her voice isn't with her anymore or whatever, but I know we have somebody in Batavia that was just on a radio program with her a couple months back. And so they had some conversations. So that's a conversation that she has with various people on an ongoing basis.
That would be awesome.
Yep. But I
Fantastic.
just think your location is just ideal, given what the history is of who was across the street there taking voice lessons in the parking lot.
You know, I get asked all the time you all know that I have moved twice, right? We were on Randall Road to start for 10 years, then we did this little detour to the town up north there for 6 years, and then we moved back here. And we've been here almost 10 years now, 9.5 anyway, or something like that. And what was I going to say there? I don't know. I'm 70 years old. I'm losing it. So I had a point. I was building up to something. Golly. I get asked all the time, what's my favorite spot? What was the best place that we were at? And I said, and I'll be honest, Randall Road for business-wise was great. We certainly benefited from being right next to Jewel. And I can't tell you how many times a couple would come to go to Jewel, and one of them would walk into Jewel and the other would come down to the store and shop at our place, and we certainly benefited from that. But this spot here, the vibe, the inside of that building is fantastic. I love it. I wouldn't want it to, if I could maybe put that at dead center of Randall Road, that building, right in the dead center of it, that would be great. But I love that location where it's at, so I concur.
Well, as you see, it's got quite a music history with it, so.
It does, yeah. And it comes with Jim Friedland. He, the sound system in our store is courtesy of Jim, and he runs the sound there, and he's as much a fixture as I am at that place. So.
Yeah, he is. And he was a fixture 50 years ago, and he's a couple years younger than I am, but we were in school together, and so I've known him all my life, and he's always had that inkling in him to have that music, so.
Right.
You've tapped a great resource in him.
So that you know that Jim and I and another guy by the name of Tim Hopkins are the three people that are working on that live music venue.
Bring it on.
We have formed a partnership, so there you go. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all tonight.
Good.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, moving then to item number 9, which is Resolution 22-002-R, approving the lease for the Albright Community Theater and Illinois Not-for-Profit Corporation for a portion of the Batavia Government Center on the 3rd floor. Who's got this one?
Laura, are you going to take this?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
This is just an extension of the lease for the Albright Community Theater, who have been here in this building for, I think, well over 10 years. They've done a number of improvements since their last lease, completely at their own expense. Also, several members of staff met with them recently to do a walkthrough and to identify some safety improvements that they could make, and they are very ready, willing, able, and anxious to make those improvements. So they've been a good tenant, and so we wanted to offer a couple of years more extension on their lease. It actually expired at the end of last year, but there were just, due to a number of things that were going on at the time, we didn't get this in front of you before the end of the year. So we are requesting that you suggest to City Council approval of a lease with the Albright Community Theater for 2 years to end December 31st, 2023.
Any discussion on this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and approve resolution 22-002-R, approving lease with Albright Community Theater.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Rosado, second by Alderman Wolf for the approval of the resolution 22-002-R for extending the lease for the Albright Community Theater. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Chanzit, Wolf,
Aye.
Solfa,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer, Alderman Ewer,
Aye.
thank you. Alderman Cerrone,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
12 yes, no nos, 2 absent, Your Honor.
Motion's approved. Thank you very much. Okay, moving to item 10, the administrator's report. Laura?
Thank you very much, Mayor. So everyone has read the news, seen the news that Shodine has provided the city with notice that they were exercising their right under the redevelopment agreement to terminate the project, which came as a great surprise to us, especially since we had just been working toward groundbreaking on the project and had recently had a meeting with all of those local businesses and property owners to do the things necessary to get ready for construction to begin. With regard to the timing, it was because the next step in the process, this week, they were to close on their loan and close on the property as well. So part of the redevelopment agreement was that we were going to transfer that redevelopment site ownership to them, and then once the garage was built, they were going to pass that ownership back to us. And rather than go through the transfer of that property, which would be a difficult thing to then have to go back and unwind, that's the reason why the timing came when it did. And it's very unfortunate, but the thing is, we're walking away with a redevelopment site that is ready to go. You know, we have purchased all the property necessary for it to be contiguous. We have undone easements that existed there that make it easier to build. We know of the environmental issues that exist, and we have an approved plan from the IEPA that we just need to execute on in order to do that remediation. And so we have put on the agenda for tomorrow night a discussion for city council to talk about what their vision is for the future of that redevelopment site, so that as we approach other development partners, that they will be able to propose projects that are in line with the vision that you create. But I did want to ask if anybody had any questions for me tonight about the notice that was given or anything in that regard.
Laura?
Alderman Wolf?
Do we have any thing that we need to do, any legal things that we need to do with them doing, giving us notice, or anything we as the council have to approve or vote on as a next step for that, or it's just a simple notice
of
from them
termination.
that suffices to end it?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
I
Is there-
guess I would just like to encourage the city council to don't be impatient with this thing. This may take a while for us to kind of spread it all out, and, we got to get the word out to people that may be interested in coming in and presenting a new plan. That's not going to happen overnight. It may take a while, and certainly the issues that Mr. Shodine brought up when he met with Laura and I, specifically about the rapid rise in the cost of building construction materials, that may be a factor with anybody else that wants to build there. So I think we shouldn't get our hopes up that we're going to be turning something around here in the next 2 or 3 months. This could be, quite a while for a conversation to take place. And as I think those of you who have been through this with us on the city council, this was something that, wasn't agreed to overnight. It took a long time, a long study. There was very divisive votes on the part of the councils. Half liked it, half didn't. There was a whole bunch of different things that happened. So, I think we're at the start over again point, and I think we've got a really neat piece of property there, and we can really do something to really further enhance the downtown business district of Batavia. And so I remain very optimistic and excited about the future of Batavia, because this site the day will come when something very nice will happen there. And then we've got, you know, other projects that are being proposed for us down on the river, down south of Wilson Street by BEI, and we've got stuff up on Batavia Avenue. We got, you know, other people are in here kicking the tires about wanting to come into Batavia and set up. And it's reached the point now that in the last 3 months, I've had 2 different mayors, one from Wisconsin and one from Algonquin in here, wanting to walk around and tour downtown Batavia because they've heard so many positive things about it, and we're asking, what was the secret to what we're doing? And so, you know, we got a lot of good stuff going on here, so obviously I should have been one that got greatly dismayed about this whole thing, and certainly I wasn't happy when we had our meeting with Mr. Chodine, but on the same token, I think we have to look at the bigger long-range picture, which certainly allows us to think that some other nice, productive things will happen on that property, which will further enhance the structure and manner and success and vigor and vitality that downtown Batavia has started to take on. And so I'm optimistic that from kind of the darkness of this moment, something very bright and wondrous will come to Batavia in the days ahead. We just have to be patient and let that all the circumstances, be it the price of building things to understanding, you know, what can and cannot work there. That isn't going to happen overnight, and we as a community should be looking forward to the day when that does happen. Anybody else want to ask any questions or anything?
Alderman Rosado?
Yes, I have a question, Laura.
Sure.
Is there any time limit on that remediation plan for the ground contamination?
Yes, there is, and I'll keep a watchful eye on that to determine that. We were actually asking our environmental consultant about that last week.
Okay, thank you.
Because that was going to be one of my questions for tomorrow night was, what do we need to do, or can we do part of the remediation now to get it done? That's what's not under the parking garage or next to the parking garage, so we can get anything we could do now done this building, next building season during 2022. And then also the costs that we've already incurred to buy the properties, the cleanup, all the other things. What of that came out of the general fund, if you could get those numbers?
None of it comes out of the general
Well,
fund.
no,
It
but I
all
mean,
uses-
originally, all that money come out of the TIF
Yes. because-
district so far?
Yes,
Everything but the property that we bought at Larson Becker.
that's correct.
So that, I just want to make sure that we have all those numbers separated so we know what we still have to get back out of the TIF or try to get back from the TIF in a development, and or what we've already incurred in the general fund.
I will double check with Peggy,
Okay.
but because the contiguous TIF had enough
In it?
in it to
Okay.
fund these things,
Okay.
that there isn't any money owed back to the general fund.
Okay. That's just one of the things I wanted to make sure that we had all kind of those numbers separated out so we knew where we were cost-wise. Because if that's coming out of the TIF, that's not anything that we've taken out of the general fund. That's coming out of everybody in town's property taxes.
Exactly. It does not.
Okay.
Even on the ongoing costs for legal fees, for instance, are paid using the account that is TIF.
The TIF, okay.
Yeah. All of those soft costs associated with development are allowable expenses that TIF can be used to reimburse ourselves even. Any other questions? And then with regard to the question about when remediation can be done, I'll have Gary address that tomorrow
Okay.
in the meeting.
That'd be fine.
So he can kind of look into exactly what the field of
Right,
contamination
what
was.
we could
and what might-
realistically get done ahead of
Right.
time, so that way it's less of a time consumer during a development.
Right. Okay,
Alderman Miller?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was gonna ask, is there any way Shannon could be a part of this conversation as we discuss like what we as a city are presenting to developers or what we are looking for? So when she goes in or someone approaches us, she knows and we're able to tell them
Oh,
what it is.
100%.
Yeah.
I was expecting her to
Okay.
be there, and in fact, she had, over the weekend, generated a list of a dozen different developers that she has some experience with that she thought might have potential or interest in this site.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, for sure.
Anybody else? Okay, going to committee reports, community development,
No report tonight, Your Honor.
public utilities,
No report, Your Honor.
government services,
Oh, sorry, I don't know. I wasn't prepared with the report. No report.
and city services. Any?
Yes, no report at this time, Your Honor.
All right, no reports under committees. All right, going to 12 other business.
We may want to mention that the 12th night celebration that had previously been planned and organized by the Batavia Ministerial Alliance for this coming Thursday night has been canceled due to the weather conditions that we are expecting that night. So sadly, we were just about to start that tradition up again, and Mother Nature just isn't cooperating with us in that regard.
Yeah, they started taking down all the Christmas decorations the last couple of days. And so today we would have had quite a pile of stuff that we were gonna put it up there on the Baptist church site as kind of one of the last things that would happen there before the construction. The Batavia Ministerial Association is very interested in trying to revive the spirit of ecumenicalism, which was when all the churches would come together and participate in activities and services and whatever. This was gonna be one of the first ones they were gonna do. I chatted with them today, and I think there was unanimous agreement listening to the weather forecast for Thursday night. It could be snowing and it could be 0 temperatures, and they said this is not the night to try to ask a whole bunch of folks to come out and be part of a meaningful service in the outdoors. So they just suggested that we'll just put the idea, don't get rid of it, but just put it to the side, maybe do something in the spring around Easter or some other time during the year and start something new, and maybe next year will work better for them. So they're seriously trying to do some stuff, and I think it's very meaningful from a community perspective that they're trying to do it. So they made the decision that probably this week isn't going to work given the weather forecast. Going to the mayor's report, I was going to start out by talking about that one, but we've already covered that. I would like to take a moment and talk about the COVID crisis that we're all facing. First of all, I just want to say that I want to take my hat off to the paramedics of the Batavia Fire Department, because they have had a significant increase in activity the last couple of weeks, specifically with calls for people that have senses that they're maybe getting COVID or they have it or whatever. And so they're the ones that are on the front line. They have to go into all the houses, and, we got them all masked up and gowned and everything else to protect them the best they can. But when you're doing 6, 7, 8 a day, there's a lot of risk in all that. So it's good that they're there. And I know we've taken a bunch of folks to the hospital. We've diverted taking some when they told them, well, just kind of quarantine yourself and take it easy for a while, and that seems to be working. But they've had a big load. But I just want to say there's a lot of conversation going on, and I had the opportunity to talk for a couple minutes before the meeting with the city attorney, who's here, about, I have people say, well, why don't we pass a law and say that everybody in Batavia has to have the shot? Or why don't we pass a law and say that everybody has to social distance when they're in a restaurant and be 6 feet apart? Or why don't we pass a law and tell everybody they have to wear the face mask wherever they are, whatever they're doing, if they're out? And you want to tell us a couple things about why we probably can't do some of this stuff from a legal perspective?
Well, yeah, there are a couple different issues at play. First of all, you still have the governor's orders in place that impact a lot of the things, such as face covering and mask mandates and vaccination requirements for certain professions and all that. Second of all, from a city enforcement perspective, any sort of rules that the city would pass probably would be on some emergency basis, on the emergency powers of the mayors. They'd be good for about 2 weeks unless the city council decided to continue on declaring a state emergency. And the third issue is just, even if you would pass something like the city of Chicago did or Cook County did, you always would have the issue of enforcement as well, making sure these mandates and ordinances are enforced, and the different issues that would come in play with that. Overall, there's good question in terms of what the city can or cannot do. But with all those considerations, there's also the other aspects I just kind of covered. Even if the city has the authority to do something, there are other issues at play as well, so. I don't know if anybody has specific questions of myself or our office.
Yeah, this is a very wide-range question that's being asked all over the region. I'm gonna be on a call tomorrow noontime with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, and I'm sure this is the number one subject that's gonna come up as to, why is Chicago doing this? Why aren't the rest of us doing this? And people have all these ideas about stuff. I think at the end of the day, from what I've heard in the conversations I've been in, one of the real weaknesses to the whole program is that most cities, including the city of Batavia, do not have a health department. We are totally reliant in our case, and I think they've done a nice job over the years with the Kane County Department of Health. And they're the ones that we go to if there is a health-related issue in town, because they've got full-time people. That's all they do is investigate health-related issues. So we don't have that, but beyond that, I think there's a real concern about how strong any law that you want to try to enforce really is, because there is no state-passed laws about some of this stuff, as far as, that you have to wear the mask or you have to social distance or whatever the question may be. And I think to get it somewhere else, it's going to have to go to the Illinois General Assembly, and they'd have to pass some laws, wouldn't they, to really bring some teeth to some of this stuff?
That's one of the arguments that's out there. The governor's orders that have been in place have been generally upheld by the courts. But even the governor hasn't taken the steps that Chicago and Cook County has, that mandating vaccination requirements in order to eat in restaurants and bars, or other certain mask mandates. And there's a lot of exceptions to even the mask mandates that are out there. So even the governor himself, that would technically have the authority, has been recognized by the courts to have some authority for this, hasn't taken these steps himself on a statewide basis.
And as we know, there's already been in southern Illinois quite a bit of court action by little towns who have chosen not to follow these rules, and people have sued and wanted to have it challenged and questioned. We even had, I believe, one in Geneva at one of the restaurants up there that had to be adjudicated, and that didn't come out to everybody's liking either. So it's kind of a whole situation doesn't have a right or wrong answer to it. And there's no real solid laws standing underneath a lot of this stuff, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that's correct. The Foxfire in Geneva did issue a suit when the governor's orders first came out. Kane County Judge Bush, granted a temporary restraining order, but that he was reversed on appeal in that case. And I know there are some school districts and some litigation going downstate from individual suing school districts over the mask mandate in schools, and that process and those cases are still being adjudicated right now with no resolution in sight.
So I guess I will publicly sit here tonight and encourage everyone from Batavia to please pay close attention to what is happening in the COVID crisis around you. I'm told a lot of people got sick around the Christmas period because you mixed older people and small children together, and many times the children had some carrying of it, and they gave it to the older people. And so there's a lot of different things that can happen here. I encourage everybody to be very cautious and be very careful as to what they're doing, and understand that, this is not something that we just made up. We've had people, unfortunately, in Batavia die from this disease. I've been to several funerals of Batavia residents who have passed away because they died from COVID. And so this is not something that has not touched our town in a very sad way, and it's something that I think we need to pay the utmost attention to. And, on the other side of this, we have some people that are just obstinately opposed to any type of shot. They won't take it, they won't get it, they want nothing to do with it. And now I've been told that several of those folks, or some of them who have been really impacted by this whole thing and are very sick and whatever, but they decided they didn't want to get the shot. So there's a lot of strange stories to this. I am led to believe there are folks in the state of Illinois that are writing a day-to-day history of this whole thing for future generations to be able to look back on and learn from the lessons that were here. And I think it's far from being completed, but it's being done I believe by some college students. And it should be a very interesting document when they get it all done, showing what, beginning and when it all started and what were the first community reactions to it, and people that didn't want to get shot and they didn't have shots and then they got shots, and all the other good stuff that's going in there. So I'm glad there will be a historical record is now being created that will be able to be shared with future generations, because we are living in an event that's probably going to be remembered in history as one of the more interesting events that happened in this century in the United States of America. So not that we should be pleased by that, but I think Batavia, to a large degree, has done the right thing and has tried to keep people educated and acknowledged. And, goodness knows we've given a lot of face masks away to people. And as I tell people, I try to wear one when I'm out, but at this meeting, I pull it down so I can speak into the microphone and people can hear me and understand me. And that was one of the criticisms I got when we first started doing this, and I wore the mask to the meeting. And I had several people tell me, Jeff, I couldn't understand the words you were saying with that mask on at the meeting. So I'm sitting here socially distanced from everybody around me, but I got the mask pulled down so I can speak in a voice that people can understand. And I would encourage others to do that, because I've had situations where I've gone to meetings and somebody's kept the mask on and I didn't hear everything that was being said because it just wasn't working that well. So that's just a few pieces of advice I have. Again, just ask everybody to strongly cooperate and, use your best judgments, but please be aware that we do have this disease floating around our town. It has killed people and it's made a lot of people sick that fortunately were able to revive and recover. But this has not been a real positive situation, and it's got a lot of downs to it. And please do everything we can to let's all work together to get this out of our town. So thank everybody for your understanding and cooperation of this as we go forward. And I'm sure there'll be more stories in the paper tomorrow about what other city councils nearby us did or did not do. And we'll have to wait and see what those are. But we remain, as a city here, encouraging people to wear the mask, to get your shot, and to continue to listen to what the experts are saying, because there does seem to be new ideas and new drugs and everything else appearing that will maybe further bring this thing down. But please be very cautious with it. So thank you. All right. We need an executive session then?
I would request that we postpone that executive session given the technical difficulties that we're experiencing
that's probably a good
tonight
idea.
with Zoom. And it's not time sensitive.
All right. Okay. So then we'll move to 15, which is adjournment. Would somebody care to make a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Wolf, second by Alderman Sofa, that we adjourn. Clerk, take a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting stands adjourned.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Thanks.
everybody.